actually doesn't respect the rule of law and human dignity and the unalienable rights about which I spoke. We have an obligation, we have an absolute obligation to protect American sovereignty for the American people who are here, and to conduct a migration policy that will be the most generous in the world, it always has been, but that is operated under a rule of law that is respectful of that dignity. I've been to El Salvador, I've been to Mexico multiple times, I was in Cucuta, Colombia, I watched those migrants flee. These people who are coming across our southern border are putting their own lives at risk, the lives of their children. We need a system that welcomes people to come to our country in a way that is lawful and respectful of their human dignity. And it's what President Trump is aiming to achieve. And I will tell you, we're closer today than America was 2.5 years ago. And I've worked closely with my counterpart, Marcelo Ebrard. He's the foreign minister in Mexico. He's a fantastic guy. He's also a person of the left. And so politically, we're in different places. But we share a vision for what a secure southern border ought to look like and how we'll get that set of issues right so that those people who do want to come here, who are in fact coming from places that, to your point, are more than economically challenged, but rather present true threat and risk to life, that America will continue to be a place where they can be welcomed into our great country. We're working hard at that. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
And the last question here on the left.
All right, last one, a lot of pressure.
Hello, I'm Richard. I'm studying mechanical engineering and am a member of the KSU debate team. How is the U.S. promoting an end to the oppression of Uyghurs in China?
Insufficiently, because it's still going on. And so the mission continues. We've used the diplomatic tools that we have, which begin with identification of the problem set. It sounds like you know a fair amount about what's transpiring. There's been some great pieces written, some great pieces in the New York Times and other places where they've talked about the deprivation that's taking place there in Western China. I said before, this may well end up being one of the worst stains on the world of this century. It's of that magnitude. So our tool set is to identify the challenge and then to rally the world. And we've done so today with some success, but not nearly enough, to call this out and to then work with the Chinese government to convince them, to convince the Chinese Communist Party that this isn't in their best interest either, that it's not the right way to treat their fellow members of their country. It's not the right way to treat other human beings. This is fundamentally not about national security for them. This isn't about Islamic extremism in Western China. This is about freedom and dignity for individuals. And so we have big teams working on this as part of our efforts towards making sure that there's as much religious freedom around the world as we can possibly muster. We take that for granted here. If you want to practice your faith or you choose not to practice any faith, you can do that here in America. We want to make sure that's true in as many places around the world as we can. We consider that sort of the first among our unalienable rights. If you can't exhibit your beliefs, then some of these other things become far less relevant to your well-being. It's a difficult challenge. I hope that we can get. We're going to have this UN General Assembly in the third week of September. We'll do a number of gatherings where our efforts will be to get other countries to sign up to help us call out this activity that's taking place. We just want it fixed. We want freedom for those folks. We have lots of challenges with China, but this is about their fundamental unalienable rights for those particular individuals who are mostly Muslim, Chechens, Uyghurs. We're trying our best to do right by them. Thank you.
Secretary Pompeo, thank you again for coming to Kansas State University. We appreciate your leadership in America and your leadership internationally. And just to remind everybody here, the next lecture will be September 27th. It's the CEO of Fortune magazine, Alan Murray, and he's going to talk about truth and facts in the 21st century. Should be really interesting. So with that, thank you very much for attending, and thank you, Mr. Secretary.
and how are you? Today starts a program just for you from the Salina Media Connection. People from the Salina community are getting together for a program where they'll be telling stories, dancing, singing, all kinds of fun stuff. And because it is just for you, we're calling it the Kids Connection. It's going to be on every morning at 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. It's about arts, health, wellness, and education. Like I said, lots of fun stuff you'll want to see. Again, it's on Monday through Friday at 10 a.m., the Kids Connection, just for you. Come on, join in. I know you'll have fun.
Welcome back to Rolling Hills Zoo's Bringing the Zoo to You. This is our educational fun series when we explore the zoo and all the many animals that we have here at the zoo. And we always want to take you behind the scenes and introduce you to all of the fun and exciting things that happen at the zoo. Even while you can't be here, we are still going on with all of the many things that we do in caring for our animals. Today we're going to introduce you to one of our education team members, Jessica. And she's brought a very special friend with her here today.
I did. So this is Beardy B, and he's our inland bearded dragon from Australia. And he lives actually in a lot of desert region or scrublands, but he likes the desert the most because he is a reptile and likes the warmth. Since he is a reptile, he does depend on his environment. So you're not going to find a lot of reptiles outside in Kansas, even though we've had some beautiful days. Yesterday, I believe it was in the 60s, so you might have gotten a glimpse of a few insects or other small amphibians or reptiles out, but they're going to go back into what we call brumation, which is similar to what he does in Australia. Brumation is something, it's similar to hibernation that we know that our bats go into, but it's a little bit different because our reptiles actually can wake up and go back to sleep. And in hibernation, they typically stay asleep from the fall all the way to the spring, and then that's when they wake up. And they also have that fat storage for hibernation. So these guys do something a little bit similar to our camels for fat storage, but they don't have a hump, obviously. They store their fat in their tail. So a thick tail means that a healthy lizard. So Beardy here is very healthy. He stores all his nutrients and everything because in the desert they may not have food all the time. Here is part of the reason why he is called a bearded dragon. If you look, it's a little bit dark, but whenever he feels threatened or for mating, he will blow this up and make himself look really, really handsome to the ladies, or he will blow that up to make himself look threatening to other bearded dragons, and that's where they get their name, because it looks like he grows a beard in just a few seconds. These spikes on his side, they're very, very soft right now, but if he feels threatened, they get very, very pokey. In the wild, he's going to eat, as an adult, they eat 20% insects and about 80% plant life, but when they are younger, they're gonna need a lot more insects, so they eat about 80% insects and 20% plant life. Bearded dragons actually are pretty unique and pretty popular in the reptile world. A lot of people like to have them as pets because of their very, very relaxed nature. As you can see, Mr. Beardy here is just kind of chilling out on his table here and doing pretty well. He's never been on the table before, so he's doing pretty good.
Jessica, tell me a little bit about what's underneath Beardy on this table.
Oh, there is a heat pack underneath of him because he is a reptile. He loves the heat source. So in order to make him feel comfortable, you're gonna see this little bit of a bump here, and that's actually a heat disc, and that's why he is so comfortable on this table.
So now, do we only have one bearded dragon here at the zoo?
Yes, in the education department. So one of the major questions that we get when we do any sort of animal presentations with our education animal ambassadors is, where can I see them in the zoo? Well, these guys are not on exhibit because they have a special job of going out and talking to students and adults about the conservation efforts with different animals, and we can relate them to multiple different things.
So where exactly in the zoo do these bearded dragons live, our educational animals live?
So they live what we call in the main barn, and they have their own little special room. The reptile room has their own little special area, and Hillary and Cheyenne care for them.
Okay. Now, when the bearded dragons want to reproduce, is that live birth? Is that via eggs? Tell us about that.
They do lay eggs, and they lay about 10 to 25 eggs, and they can lay up to 9 clutches in a year, which is not exactly 100% common, but they can lay up to 9 clutches, and it takes about 8 to 11 weeks for them to hatch.
Okay.
Now, there's something a little unique about bearded dragons is, depending on the temperature, if they were laid as a female, or I'm sorry, as a male, if the heat increases, then they can actually change the sex to a female.
Wow, that is really interesting. So, and how long will they live?
So in the wild, they live about 5 to 8 years, but in captivity with very good care, then they can live up to about 10 years, depending.
And do we know how old Beardy is?
So his birthday is in November of 2015, so he will be 5 years old.
Okay, Beardy, you've still got some time with us, don't you? So now I'm looking at Beardy, and he's got these interesting holes on the side of his head. What are those?
So those are his ears, and they're kind of positioned that way. That way when he's running through the sand or anything, he doesn't get any sand or any debris in his ears.
Okay. And is there anything that he is afraid of?
Dingoes. And birds of prey. Those are going to be their natural predators in Australia. Also some other snakes. And then, of course, larger bearded dragons or other larger lizards will eat them when they are young, or larger lizards when they're an adult.
Okay.
So their full length is anywhere between 16 and 24 inches. I'm actually not sure how long Beardy is here, but he is a full-grown adult bearded dragon.
Okay. And with Beardy, do you have to take any special care? What are the types of things you have to do in caring for him?
Are you meaning on our programs?
In just caring for him here at the zoo.
Okay, so I don't do a whole lot of his keeping world, but if I was going down and doing any sort of animal handling training with our zoo teens, we go through a pretty strict book, and we go through the guidelines, and they have to hold him appropriately. So as far as care, it's just dependent on if we go on a long program or short program. I'm in communication with their keepers. So he has certain days that he has salad days, and he has certain days that he has cricket days. So I'm in communication, like I said, with his keepers, so that I know if we have a long program. For instance, when we do our Dane Hansen programs, it's a long day for a lot of our animals. So we have their diets prepared ahead of time. And then one of the members of the education team feed him that on one of our breaks in between. Whether it's mealworms or crickets. We prefer not crickets because those get out easy. So they usually substitute mealworms for us, and salad greens. And then of course we provide some sort of hydration, so of course water for him during that time.
And you do have to monitor the temperature of his room then too.
They do down there. They have temperatures. Now when we go on programs, we do have a heat gun that we do make sure that his travel enclosure is safe and at that appropriate temperature. Since he is that reptile, he depends on his environment for his for that heat. So we can't put a blanket on Beardy and help him stay warm. He actually needs his environment to stay to that heat that he needs to be comfortable, because that helps and aids in digestion. If it gets too cold, he can't digest his food very well.
Very interesting. Well, is Beardy an endangered species?
He is not. These guys, out of all the species of bearded dragons, which there are either 8 or 9, I can't remember specifically right now. This particular one is not endangered, but Australia has one of the strictest laws of any animals being exported. So you cannot export wild bearded dragons, so any of them that are in the United States have been here for quite some time.
So are they being exported as part of the illegal pet trade?
Probably
Okay.
in the illegal pet trade they are, if they don't get caught, which a lot of times we all know that they do. So they do get re-released back into the wild if they are caught.
Jessica, with the recent wildfires that we had in Australia, can you tell me how the bearded dragon was affected by those?
So since it was so recent of a fire that had happened in Australia, there's no official data that has been compiled on the specific species yet. So this here is a picture of a horned toad that's actually found in the United States, but bearded dragons are actually mistaken for them quite a bit because they do look similar, but these guys are a little bit different. One of the cool things that they do is they can actually squirt blood out of their eyes if a predator happens to try to get them. So, but these guys are found in the United States and bearded dragons are found in Australia.
We want to thank Jessica for joining us today on Bringing the Zoo to You right here at Rolling Hill Zoo. Tomorrow we're going to be visiting with one of our zookeepers out in the zoo and seeing which animal they want to introduce us to. So we look forward to having you join us again tomorrow and seeing what all goes on at Rolling Hill Zoo behind the scenes. We'll see you soon.
Hi, welcome to my studio. This is Shawn Delker and I am a fiber artist. Let's talk for a little bit about what is a fiber artist. People get that kind of confused. Traditional quilts are usually geometrical shapes and patterns similar to this. They've been made for hundreds of years and used as bed coverings. However, an art quilt is not a bed covering and is usually used as a wall hanging. Fiber artists can use many tools when they're working, like fabric dyes, pencils, inks, and thread, and many, many more. They still qualify as quilts because they are 3 layers stitched together, but they don't look like the quilts that were traditionally made. This is my recently finished artwork. I called it Mr. and Mrs. Finch. As you can tell, it doesn't look anything like a traditional quilt. I used my ice-dyed fabrics and lots of thread to make the birds. It started out as a photograph that my husband took using a remote camera. Then I had him enlarge it to the size that I wanted, and that was the beginning of my project. I traced it using a light table onto the fabric that was a similar color to the color of the birds. Then I created a sandwich of stabilizers using iron-on fusible. Now I'm off to the sewing machine. Doing a thread painting is much like doing any kind of painting, except I use thread as my paint and my sewing machine is the paintbrush. Here you see all the colors that I used in Mr. and Mrs. Finch. Every part of the bird has about 3 layers of different colored thread to create the color and the texture that I wanted. I wear these special gloves because they have a rubber tips on their fingers and they help me control my fabric. Then I start my machine and I stitch. I usually stitch and kind of give it a general color in, but eventually it will be totally covered with thread. This takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of practice to get good at this. When I get done with my piece, then I'm going to cut him out of this piece and glue him down onto the background that I've chosen for him. This is another piece that I finished. As you can tell, many of my artworks come from my own garden. I did this with a totally different technique. I used my ice-dyed fabric, and then I used for the flowers and the leaves my ink pencils that I enjoyed coloring them in. As you can tell, as a fiber artist, you have lots of different tools to use, and they're each fun and interesting and give a totally different look to your piece. If you're interested in my artwork and want to know more about what I do, you can visit me at www.bittwigquilts.com. In that website, you will see a gallery of everything that I have done and lots of different techniques that I do, and you'll even get to see classes, events, and shows that I'm going to be in. So visit me soon.
So glad you could join us. Keep watching. There's lots more.
My head toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Head toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Ooh, child, tired of the bullshit. Gone, dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yes, Lord. Try to get some new shit in there. Swimwear, going to the pool shit. Oh, come now, come dry your eyes. You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need a space, let me simplify. If he don't love you anymore, just walk your fine ass out the door. I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling? Ooh, girl, need to kick off your shoes. Gotta take a deep breath, time to focus on you. All the big fights, long nights that you've been through. I got a bottle of tequila I've been saving for you. Now I can change your life. You can have it all, no sacrifice. I know we did you wrong, we can make it right. So go and let it all hang out tonight. 'Cause he don't love you anymore. So walk your fine ass out the door. And do your hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Listen, if he don't love you anymore, then walk your fine ass out the door. And do your hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling?
Hello, my friends, and welcome once again to Storytime at the Zoo. My name is Miss Lori, and this week we are going to be reading Grendel's Great Escape. That looks like a ferret. Now, for those of you who've been to the zoo before, you know that we have a ferret. So let's read the story, and then after it, Miss Jessica's going to bring out the ferret and talk about it, okay? Let's get started. Martin jumped out of bed the second time his alarm sounded. Landing in the midst of some scattered toys, Martin looked frantically around the room. He stumbled over many piles of clothes as he hunted for his favorite monster t-shirt. He's in his PJs. It's 7 o'clock. Oh, there's that monster t-shirt. Looks like the laundry monster was here last night, Martin mumbled. Oh, I can't worry about that now. I've got to find my backpack. He finally saw the backpack on his desk. On the way to get it, Martin tripped over his skateboard. The laundry monster swayed, threatening to topple over on him. I'd better put those in the closet, Martin thought. Oh, I'll do it later. Before throwing the backpack over his shoulder, Martin tossed in some ferret food and toys. He quickly opened the cage door, hoping to lure Grendel into the front pouch. The ferret made a mad dash toward the door instead. Martin needed him for show and tell. Grendel, however, was not cooperating. Martin finally cornered him in the kitchen. Mom handed Martin the leash and reminded him that ferrets weren't allowed to run freely around. Oh, there goes Grendel. There's the leash. Goodness. Martin grabbed his backpack and raced toward the school bus. There isn't enough time to put on Grendel's leash, Martin thought. Oh, I'll take care of it later. Perfect timing, Gus commented as he closed the creaky bus door. Martin high-fived his friends as he walked to the back, plopping into the first empty seat he could find. Whoop. There's Grendel. There's all Martin's friends. Later, during art class, Martin splashed colors around on his latest masterpiece. "This is a lot of fun," he said. Miss Mason smiled while carefully avoiding a paint puddle. "Time for show and tell," Miss Emily announced after math class. "Martin, you will go first." He opened the backpack, reached in, and pulled out, oh my, an empty harness. "Grendel has to be around here somewhere," Martin said. Miss Emily shook her head. "You better find that ferret before Mr. B sees him running around." Oh boy, there's the art. Oh no, no ferret. The principal was a huge bear of a man whose deep growl could be heard throughout the school. Mr. B prowled the hallways in search of tardy children. Martin planned on staying clear of him. Oh goodness, he kind of does look like a big bear, doesn't he? Ooh, he's going around. Roar. He had a missing ferret to find. Where should he start? Over by the ball bin? Where could Grendel be? At recess, Martin asked Chris and Maya for help, promising to let them play with the Mega Monster and Mousy balls. They looked in the desks and under the chairs. Maya peeped into the supply closet. Was Grendel hiding in the coats? Hunting for snacks in Miss Emily's bag? Where could Grendel be? He's not there. He's not there. Martin checked the hallway to see if Mr. B was prowling around. He motioned to Chris and Maya. "Come on, the coast is clear," he said. The search party headed toward the art room. They were eager to see if Grendel was in there, hiding out. Oh, trying to keep away from Mr. B. There's Maya, and there is Chris, and there's Martin. Okay. "He's got to be around here somewhere," said Martin. Was Grendel all snug and cozy in the yarn bin? Maybe he was nibbling on the coloring books. Over by the paints. Where could Grendel be? Martin's tummy rumbled as they entered the cafeteria. The lunch lady ran out of the kitchen with a broom. "Shoo! Shoo!" she shouted out loud. "We can't have that animal running around in here." Grindel ran across the tables and through the door. Well, he wasn't in there. They knew. They didn't know. Oh, ho, ho, ho. There's Grindel, and he's on a table, a cafeteria table. There's the lunch lady. The frantic ferret ran down a flight of steps and collided into Mo. Grindel scurried to his pant leg and started to climb. Although he was startled, the janitor was quick to react. "Get out of there!" Mo shouted as he frantically tried to shake Grindel out. Oh, here comes Grindel. And there's Mo, the janitor. Oh no! He's going up a pant leg. Woohoo! "He went that way," said Maya, pointing to the teacher's lounge. Grindel was snacking on a cookie when the gym teacher noticed him. "Out! Shoo!" she shouted out loud. "Get out of here! We can't have a ferret running around here." Martin got there just in time to see Grindel run by. "Oh, look! Get out of here, Grindel! Shoo! Shoo, Grindel!" Grindel felt right at home in the lost and found room. Unfortunately, it was right next to Mr. B's office. The children had to get Grindel without being seen by the grisly Mr. B. Once inside, Martin called out to Grindel. Was he in the hoodie bin? Maybe on the toy shelf? Where could Grindel be? Chris spotted the snoozing ferret over by the coat rack. "Gotcha!" Martin yelled happily, hugging Grindel tight. So look, oh, there he goes in. Oh boy, there's Mr. B. And oh, there he is. There's Grindel sleeping. Martin was finally ready for show and tell. With Grindel's harness securely in place, he showed the class how to play with a ferret. He felt really lucky to have found his pet, and there wouldn't be any growling by the grisly Mr. B. Oh my, oh, how about, there it is. Oh look, there he is. And he's got his leash on. And show and tell how to take care of a ferret. The end. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And remember, Miss Jessica's next, right now, with the ferret. See you next time. Bye.
I want to thank Miss Lori for reading Grendel's Great Escape, featuring the ferret. I have with me today our education ambassador, Miss Taz. She is our domestic ferret. And ferrets are really good at escaping because they can fit through just about anything that their head can. So they have very flexible bodies, and that's why in a lot of countries they're used for what they call ferreting. And that helps them in the wild as well. What ferreting is they actually send these guys, or ferrets in different other countries, down into rabbit holes, because in other countries rabbits are considered a big nuisance. So they'll send them down and they'll chase the rabbits out, because these guys are able to maneuver through those tight burrows and tunnels that the rabbits have. So Taz works very, very hard on her hula dance, is what we call it for her. And I'm going to show you a little bit of her flexible spine here. So there's her hula dance. She works very, very hard at it. So you'll have to let me know and comment below on what you think about her hula dance. She also is very flexible. I can fold her completely in half, and as you can see, she's quite comfortable just checking out her surroundings, and she doesn't really care. And that's because they have a very flexible spine. That helps them navigate through different tight quarters that we wouldn't be able to. They actually are professionals, because in many different countries, ferrets are used to go through tight conduit, or it's a big fancy word for plastic pipe that wires would go through. And they will put on special little harnesses, and these guys will go through and pull the wires through because they love to be busy. Now these guys actually sleep 14 to 16 hours a day. Who would like to sleep that long? Now these guys, even though she's cute and cuddly, she's going to be a carnivore. Now a carnivore is an animal who eats only meat. So she has very sharp teeth, and in the wild they eat small rodents. Now up until World War II, these guys were used to control the mouse population around the grain bins, because since they're carnivores and they eat those mice, these guys were able to help the farmers. They were also thought to be used for NASA to help also put the wires through on the space shuttles. So these guys have a very, very important job, except they got kind of fired from NASA because they kept falling asleep. Like I said, they like to sleep 14 to 16 hours a day. Now these guys are a relative to a very important ferret that we have here in Kansas, and it's actually the black-footed ferret. These guys are a little bit smaller than the black-footed ferret, but not by much. And the black-footed ferrets are actually in Logan County, Kansas, and their diet consists of 91% prairie dogs. Now they'll go down in their burrows at night and they'll eat the sleeping prairie dogs. So that is their main diet, when these guys are going to be, their main diet is going to be small rodents. These guys can live about 5 to 10 years. So in the wild they live a little bit less because they do have predators. So the black-footed ferrets in the wild live between 1 to 3 years. If you guys have any other questions about the domestic ferret or the black-footed ferrets, I encourage you to comment below and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Till next time, friends.
So glad you could join us. Keep watching. There's lots more.
I am going to read the story of Molly and the Tornado. This is a beautiful story. It's powerful and it's comforting, meaning it makes you feel good, even though something not so good happens. Because even though bad things sometimes happen to us, we can always find hope and joy in helping others. This is Molly and the Tornado. It looks like bad weather might be headed our way, Molly, Mr. Hunter said excitedly. He reached down and gave Molly, who is a beautiful, beautiful pet, a pat on the head. Rex Hunter owned the local drugstore in town. It had an old-fashioned soda fountain and was home to a fat cat named Wilson. Wilson loved to lounge around on the counter. The last time anyone had seen Wilson running was when Molly chased him up and down the store aisles 2 years earlier. Since then, Molly has been forced to wait for her owner outside, but Mr. Hunter always comes to pet her. There are some people at the edge of Greensburg waiting for the storms, Mr. Hunter continued. He was talking to Molly. He pointed off into the distance. They're known as storm spotters. For a small town, these storms can certainly add a lot of excitement. Be safe, Rex, Max said as he walked out of the store. I put the change for the newspaper on your counter. Matt was Molly's owner. He grew up in the town of Greensburg and had known Rex Hunter for all of his life. In such a small town, everyone knows all their neighbors and considers each one like family. That evening, Matt turned on the television and Molly settled into her bed. It was time for her favorite show. However, the television was showing something else. It was a man standing in front of a large map. It's the weatherman, Matt said. There's a major storm coming, said the weatherman. His name was Freeman. Molly was upset that she couldn't watch her show. She was about to bark, but she noticed that Matt had a concerned look on his face. Perhaps her show wasn't as important as what this weatherman had to say. As the evening went on, The weatherman broke in more and more. Each time he got more excited, and Matt got more worried. Molly gave up trying to watch her favorite show, and instead she settled in to sleep. At 9:40, a loud siren rang out. Molly jumped out of her bed. It was a tornado siren. Matt was already busy putting some items into a bag. "Come on, Molly," Matt said. "Let's head to the neighbor's house. His basement is tornado-proof, and we'll be safe." When they arrived at the basement was already filled with people and other pets. In total, there were 11 people, 3 dogs, a parakeet, and 4 turtles. It was enough people for a party, thought Molly, but no one looked like they felt like celebrating. Everyone had concerned looks on their face. The tornado was very loud and windy. You could hear clangs and booms, and the debris flew against the house. Everyone held hands and huddled together. Each time there was a loud noise, people would squeeze their hands tighter. The wind and noise lasted for about 8.5 minutes, but it seemed longer for Molly. During that time, the people in the basement were very brave. Sometimes they said a prayer or hummed songs. Molly realized that the animals were nervous too, and decided to howl a soft song for them. Even the turtles popped their heads out of their shells to listen to Molly's soothing song. "It's over," Matt sighed. There was a great sense of relief in the room. "Molly, you stay here with the others. I'm going to have a look around outside." Matt pushed on the basement door. A tree branch had fallen and blocked it. A few other neighbors came over to help. By working together, they managed to push the door open and get to the outside. The tornado had demolished everything. Homes were destroyed, and trees were laying on the ground. Matt and other neighbors made sure that no one was calling for help, and then returned to the basement. After waiting a few hours, Molly's ear perked up. She thought she heard some noises outside. It sounded like some people and a vehicle. She climbed to the top of the basement and started to bark. A rescue worker heard Molly and immediately ran over. Everyone came out of the basement and boarded a school bus. Molly had never ridden on a school bus before, and she wondered where it was headed. The school bus arrived at a high school in a nearby town, 10 miles away. The rescue workers had converted the school gym into a shelter. It was filled with food, water, beds, and a lot of people and animals. Molly walked around and saw a lot of sad faces. The people of Greensburg had lost their houses and everything they owned. Molly knew what this felt like because she lost her home and her favorite toys as well. She greeted each person with a gentle nuzzle. Everyone gave her a pat on the head and a soft smile. As she continued to walk around the shelter, she noticed Mr. Hunter. "Molly, I'm glad you're all right. That was quite a tornado," Mr. Hunter said, as Molly put her head on his lap. "I lost my whole store, the old soda fountain too, but I still have Wilson." Molly noticed the orange cat sitting next to him. Wilson wasn't hissing this time, and Molly wasn't about to chase him. This was a time to be together. "Well, I can always rebuild the store, and people can rebuild their homes," Mr. Hunter continued. "The important thing is that I see a lot of familiar faces here that are safe." It was 3 more days until they could return to town. A few more storms had passed through the area, but not as bad as that tornado. Everyone was eager to get back to start rebuilding their home and their future. Once they did return to Greensburg, they found out that they were not alone. Volunteers from all over came to help clean up the mess and rebuild homes. Some of the volunteers had been in tornadoes, and some had even been in floods. Matt worked with the volunteers every day until the town was rebuilt. Molly decided that she wanted to help too. Molly worked for Dr. Dorman at the vet clinic and helped reunite people with their lost animals. Mrs. Peggy was overjoyed to see her rabbit. Mr. Harris gave his poodle a big hug and some treats. Once all of the animals were back with their owners, Molly went to work with Matt. She greeted all the new volunteers. Over 14,000 people arrived during a span of 2.5 years. They all said the same thing. When disaster struck our community, people came to help us. So we are paying it forward. Houses were rebuilt and toys were replaced. Even the old soda fountain was working again, but in a new location. Molly was very thankful for all of the volunteers who came to help. She thought about what it meant to pay it forward. Matt told her it means when someone does something nice for you, that you do something nice for someone else. Molly decided she wanted to help others and began traveling around the world with Matt. Anytime a community faces a disaster, Molly and Matt are there to help. That's Molly's story. And Greensburg is a real town in Kansas.
Thank you for watching Kids Connection. Make sure to watch it next time.
I go back in time when I see you. Knees lock, heart stops. Do you see me too? I look up and wonder, are you there? You there, me here, moving to each other softly. You lead, I go, right where you want me. Chin up, arm out, let's waltz in the dark. No one else to see. Waltz in the dark, just you and me. I can't dance, and your eyes, they wander.
Heard a song on the radio, next day saw a video. Melody just seemed to ease my mind. Tape drop and we hit the stove. Can't wait till we get it home, so I can waste the day away and press rewind. Cause simply ordinary just won't do. I need a song to change my mood, cause I've been in the dumps for so long. Put on my headphones and take me away. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Dow trays at the door, screaming nothing but a G thing. Screaming nothing but a G thing. And then we got JoJo, Scarface, Wu-Tang at the screaming now. Nothing but a G thing. Ooh yeah. Nothing but a G thing, baby, baby. Nothing but a G thing, baby. Nothing but a G thing, baby. Crazy. Nothing but a G thing, baby. Crazy, crazy. Nothing but a G thing, no doubt. Crazy, so no doubt. Crazy, so no doubt. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Said I'm so no doubt. Crazy, so no doubt. Crazy, so no doubt. Crazy, crazy, crazy. This ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Ain't nothing but a G thing, yeah. Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Said it ain't nothing but a G thing. Oh, nothing but a G thing. Yeah, it ain't nothing but a G thing, man. Ain't nothing but a G thing, G thing. 3, 4, 3, 4. Dow trays at the store, nothing but a G thing. Screaming nothing but a G thing. And then we got KC, JoJo, Scarface, Wu-Tang at the store, screaming nothing but a G thing. It ain't nothing but a G thing, baby, baby.
sing as our favorite song came on. I love to watch you dance as you smiled. It's those moments that I miss since you've been gone for quite a while. Other girls, they're not like you. They don't know me like you do. When you say you're coming back, I hold on to every word. Oh, back in my room, I wait for your text, good night. I can't help to think as I turn out the light. You're everything that I wanted and more. It would be a shame if I let you walk right out the door. Other girls, they're not like you. They don't know me like you. When you say you're coming back, I hold on to every word. I can't think about no one else since you've been sitting on my heart. When I lay down for the night, you're what I see when I close my eyes. Other girls, they're not like you. They don't know me like you do. When you say you're coming back, I hold on to every word. Other girls, they're not like you. They don't know me like you do. When you say you're coming back, I hold on to every word. Oh.
Lost, all alone out there. No, I just don't care. Mama said just wait. Patience will bring someone great. Of all the boys, you're the one to find me. Of all the girls, I'm the one that's yours. Of all the boys, you're the one to find me. Of all the girls, I'm yours. Run, tried to run so far, but you ran by my side. Emotions fill my heart, ones I just couldn't hide. Yes, of all the boys, you're the one to find me. Of all the girls, I'm the one that's yours. Of all the boys, you're the one to find me. Of all the girls, I'm yours. Right here with you, I'll stay. Right here with you, I'll stay. Yeah. Right here with you, I'll stay. Right here with you, I'll stay. You stuck by my side, your arms stretched open wide. through struggles and through joy. Yes, you'll always, always, always be my boy.